Hi guys, my name is Mayana. Welcome to MyoCore, and today we're going to be talking about plagiarism. Specifically, we're going to be talking about powerless and when does something go from being inspired by to being flat out plagiarism. So before we even get into the video, a few maintenance things. I know it's been about a good 2 weeks since I've uploaded a video. I try to upload a video like once a week, but here's the thing. I ended up hyperfixating on anime and manga, and then I started reading manga, and I was like, fuck them books. I feel like I still needed a break though, and I don't want to ever force myself to make these videos because I feel like you can tell when someone is forcing themselves to do something or when they don't want to be there. And I only want to talk about things that I'm interested in. I want my video essays to be something that I'm educated in. Even if I don't know a lot, I want to be something that I'm passionate about, something that I know what I'm talking about. My wig isn't glued down, and that's okay. I'm also I didn't do any makeup. I didn't glue my wig down. I'm sorry. I really want to film a video essay, but it takes a lot of energy to do my makeup, pick out a cute outfit, put the wig on. It's a lot of work, and I really just don't want to do that. I've been really excited to film this video, and I just want to film the video. I didn't want to have to do all that extra shit. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, let's just get into the video. I remember seeing this author, Lauren Roberts, on TikTok a lot in 2020. She had specifically uploaded this one video, and it was of her reading corner, and I thought it was super gorgeous that I started stalking her page, and I saw that she wrote a book, and I was like, oh my gosh. Based off her vibes, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fuck with this book heavy. But then I saw it was YA, and then I was like, oh, okay, never mind. There's nothing wrong with YA. I just know that YA isn't for me. It's not YA fantasy, at least, because I actually really like YA contemporary. I eat that shit up every summer. YA contemporary, and I like YA romance, but YA thrillers and YA fantasies just don't do it for me. So when I saw the book was YA fantasy, I was kind of like, oh, I'm out. If I'm gonna read a YA fantasy, I need something that's not popular, that's a hidden gem, because those hit the best. I don't know what it is about. So I kind of stopped caring. But then the book blew up in 2023, and one of my closest friends, Jemiah, she actually wanted me to read the book, which I don't know why, because she loved the book, and everyone knows I'm a critical. All of my friends know I'm a critical reader. My friends usually, unless they really know my taste, or they want me to shit on something for their own entertainment, my friends usually don't recommend me to read stuff. I remember when the Hunger Games came out, all of my friends were actually begging me not to read it because they thought I was gonna hate it. I ended up actually really loving it. It was it's actually a story. It has plot, it has characters, it has a point. It literally is social comment. It's so amazing. How could you not fuck with it, you know? And we're gonna talk more about the Hunger Games and stuff, ironically, later. But yeah, so at first I was gonna do it in a vlog style, but then I decided I want to do a sit down so I can really pinpoint everything, and I want to be able to spoil it, and I can spoil it in a vlog. But it's I don't know, I think I prefer these type of rant reviews where it's sit down and I go through it point by point. So that's what we're going to be here for today. So my original idea for this video was actually that I talk about plagiarism, and I compare it with the whole Crave issue that's going on, and I find a way to connect them. Honestly, I didn't feel like doing all of that shit. I'm not gonna hold you up. Maybe I'll do a video on the Crave, but people have done it already, and I didn't really do any research into it. So I feel even though I read Crave and I actually liked it, there's a video on Mayana Reads where I read the book. I gave it 3 stars. It was pretty decent. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. So I was gonna do a video because there's if you don't know what's going on, basically someone came forward and was hey, I emailed Entangled, and I told them this book idea I had. I was emailing with someone, I was telling them the book, the characters, what was gonna happen, blah 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 blah, and then they end up not reaching out to me. A few years later, I end up seeing this book called Crave, and it's literally my characters, my plot, blah 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 blah. And I know that plagiarism is really hard to prove, and so I just want to talk about, I was gonna compare and stuff like that, but I just want to talk about the book, and then later on in the video I'll go into at what point does something go from being inspired by to flat out just plagiarism. And I will be reading the second book to give the author a chance. There's a big issue I had in this book, and Jemiah says that it's talked about in the second book. I don't know why you wouldn't talk about it in the first book, considering this book is 500 pages. But also, I'm going to read it because I think it would be fun if I do. I don't think I've ever done a rant review for a complete series before. I've done one for I did like the first two after books, but I've never done like a rant review for a series, so I think it would be entertaining, I guess. I don't know. I also just want to give the author a chance because I know that she wrote the book when she was 18 and it's been 3 years and now she's whatever, I don't know how old she is. I'm guessing she would be older than 8. Obviously I'm guessing she would be 3 years older than 18, but like I don't know this lady. I'm sorry. And it was self-published at first and it ended up getting really popular, so now it's like really published. But I also know that everyone can't be R.F. Kuang and write a masterpiece at the age of 19. So I want to give her another chance. Like, maybe she's grown. You know, everybody can't come out the womb R.F. Kuang. You know what I'm saying? And I also want to state that I do understand that this is a YA book. Because I feel like when I was reading this, I was like really harsh on it. But then I'm like, but this is a YA book. But also, I feel like it's really insulting to teens' intelligence to hand them a book with like so many things that are underdeveloped and being like, here, you're a teen. Like, you won't be able to understand like why this book is bad. You're just going to think it's good because it has characters and it has a romance. So you're going to think it's good. Like, I think that's kind of insulting. But hey, I also, not everyone's a critical reader like me. I've been a critical reader my entire life. So not everyone's a critical reader. Well, I've been a critical reader since I was in high school, honestly. The very first book was Eleanor and Park when I read that book. And I'm like, damn, this shit is boring as fuck. Like, I actually fucking hate this book. It's so boring. So everyone can't be a critical reader. I understand that. Not every teen is a critical reader. I understand that. But I also think it's insulting to just be like, oh, this book is shitty. And to be like, well, it's YA. So, you know, and I also feel like that's an excuse for the author as well. Anyways, that's not what this video is about. And this book is about 523 pages, or at least that's what it says on the Kindle version. But this book was 290 pages since I read it on my big ass iPad. I mean, look how big this thing is. Like, I love her. I love her so much. Don't pay attention to the makeup stains on it either though. Yeah, so I read it on my biggest iPad, so it was 293 pages, and usually I would read it on my Kindle, but I couldn't download the ebook to my Kindle because the file was too big, so I had to read it on my iPad. On to the actual like book review. So I'm going to be reading from my notes here. So the book starts off in this world called Ilia, and honestly there's a map, but I actually don't know why, because if you think about what do you think the world looks like? That's exactly what it looks like. Whatever you just thought about, that's exactly what it looks like. Like, just think of like typical early 2000s YA core, because this book follows a girl named Payden, which I hate that name because it's not Payton, it's Payden, and then the way it's spelled is ugly. And I just feel like everything about this book is like 2014 core, but like, which is fine. Like, I've been wanting books that gave that vibe, but considering the circumstances of this book, it just didn't flow well. I hate that name. Anyways, so she's a thief who has to survive, and she has no powers in this world full of people with powers. Her father was killed, and he was in a resistance, and she ends up saving the prince and gets herself thrown into the trials that are elites only. So basically what this book is about, it's about this girl named Payden, and she lives in the slums. She's a thief, and she lives in this world where everyone has magical powers, but she doesn't have any. And she ends up saving the prince of this world. And in this world, they have these trials, and they're called like the plague trials, I believe. And she ends up getting thrown into that, and she has to like fight to the death, ? And it's just like fight to the death. There is something called the plague that killed off a lot of people, and if you didn't die, you were given powers, but like not everyone was given powers. In this world, there are 4 rankings. There are the ordinaries who have no powers, the mundanes who have basic powers, the elite who are powerful, and then the fatals, which wasn't mentioned until like halfway through the book, but the fatals are like super, super powerful. And it's not the elites fear them, but they kind of don't fuck with them for real, because like they're like super, super, and they have like very specific powers. They might have mentioned it honestly in the beginning of the book. I started reading this book at the beginning of the month, but then I got like, it was really hard for me to get through, so I stopped, and then I read the rest like last night, to be honest. In this world, they believe that the ordinaries are the reason that the elites have powers. I don't know why they believe that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, because ordinary people are ordinary, and like basically the plague caused a bunch of people to get sick, and then whoever didn't get sick got the powers. So the reason would be the plague. So why are you blaming the ordinary people? I don't understand. They want to kill off all the ordinaries. They hate the ordinaries. They're like, ew, we hate you bitches, actually. Like, I hate the way that you walk. I hate the way that you talk. Then there's these things called the trials. They're called the purge trials or whatever, right? You hear the purge trials, they want to kill off the ordinary. Guess who are the only people that can compete in these trials? If you said the ordinaries, you are wrong. The elite compete in the trials. So you hate the ordinaries, you want to kill them off, you want to run them out of town. They have no power, they can't do anything, you're disgusted by them. The people that compete in these deadly trials are the people with the power. And like, I can understand if like maybe they want to keep the elite, like they're called the elite, like maybe you want to keep the elite lower, so like maybe that's not discussed in the book though. There's really no explanation as to why the elites are the only ones competing. And it's like, so you're just killing off ordinary people, but you're also killing off elite people. And then a bunch of people already died from like the plague like years ago. So I can only imagine how small this world is, because you're just killing off people. Like the only people, and then mundanes also compete in the trials, but like nobody gives a fuck about them because they have like really like mundane, like they have like basic powers. So I can even see if like maybe you wanted the mundane to like compete in these trials. I could see that. No, it's just, I don't get it. I'm not gonna lie. In the trials this year, the prince will be competing, and he is going to be an enforcer. What is an enforcer? It's not really said, to be honest. It's not really explained to you, which is fine. Like, I don't mind not having my hand held. Like, I would prefer that. Like, I love when authors just let you figure things out on your own. But there's also no other explanation. Like, usually when authors like don't hold your hand and like give you hints or whatever, no, there's nothing. Like, no, like it just keeps saying like, oh, he's an enforcer. Oh, he's like, I'm guessing an enforcer is supposed to be like the police. I'm only assuming this by the name and the fact that eventually the prince is set to kill someone. So like maybe I'm guessing they're supposed to be, I don't know, it's not explained. Oh, this author sucks. Yeah, he'll be the right hand to the king, which will be his brother, because there's already like, you know, his dad is the king, but once his dad dies, his brother will become king. His brother's name is Kit, and then he will become, so basically this is Red Queen except reverse. So in Red Queen, there's Kyle and Maven, I think Kyle is the love interest and Maven is like the brother. And then there's Mare, who's the main character. Which Mare, in the Red Queen, Mare is somebody who lives in the slums, and then she finds out she has powers, and that's how she gets in the trials. And then she gets involved with Kyle, who was the firstborn brother and supposed to be king. And then Maven, the second-born brother, was the one who also ended up forming an interest in her, and they kind of had like this love triangle thing going on. So yeah, I read that book years ago. I try my best to like compare it, but I really don't remember what happened in Red Queen. So I don't think I read it for a rent review. I think I just read it because I wanted to hate it, like for no reason at all. Yeah, and yeah, like I said, nothing in this book is really explained to you, which I don't mind. I don't care if it's not handheld, but it's like at one point, like some things will be not explained, and then other things will be like info dump. So it's like, girl, pick which one you're like. I don't mind info dumping, but it's like, how are you gonna like not explain something and then also info dump at the same time? This book is dual POV, and it starts off with you being introduced to Peyton, and she has silver hair, which honestly, I'm so tired of the silver hair trope. It only works for me when the girl is black or like a woman of color. That's when it really eats. But the white girl with like silver hair kind of really isn't doing it for me anymore. I'm not gonna hold you. So you are also introduced to Kai, who can mimic superpowers, basically Rogue from X-Men, but not as cool. And you are also introduced to Kit, who has the power of fire and water, similar to Todoroki from My Hero Academia. Your girlie starts watching anime and she thinks she's Megan Thee Stallion with the references, okay? I don't know what to tell you. So basically, Kai and Peyton meet and they immediately think the other person is hot. They also immediately start flirting with each other, which I found very corny. Like, the dialogue in this book is so corny. If y'all could see my annotations, it's mostly just me saying corny. And also, because the book is dual POV, instead of like, you know, most dual POV where you get one person's perspective and then like right after that scene you get the other person's perspective, but after the scene, like, you don't get the same fucking scene twice. No, in this book you get the same thing twice, so you're reading the exact lines over and over sometimes, but from the other person's perspective. Really annoying, especially because they're already corny as fuck. Like, I'm sorry, but they're like this. It gave very, at one point I annotated and I was like, this is giving Disney Channel. Like, not even just their dialogue with each other, but even their dialogue with like other characters, like the way that they talk to each other just gives very Disney Channel. Like it gives Descendants, which I mean, I guess Descendants in this book have like the same target audience, so maybe I'll chill out on that. But and I like the Descendants movies. That's not a gag. I like the Descendants movie. I haven't watched one since Cameron Boyce died because I mentally cannot handle it. I might watch the most recent one because it does look good. But I'm not gonna finish the trilogy. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not. That's not what this video is about. We're not here to talk about the damn Descendants. My grown 25-year-old ass, like, I'm way past target audience. We are not here to talk about Descendants, okay? In the book, you find out Kai is going to be in the trials, and it makes no sense to me because he's the son of a king. So why is the son of a king gonna be in the trials? Like, shouldn't they want to like protect him? And then it's also, so basically Kit and Kai are half brothers. So the king is married to Kai's mom. So like, wouldn't you think they would want to protect like their precious little baby because Kit's mom had passed away? So wouldn't you think they would want to protect like their precious little baby? Put in my notes, I actually put it in such a weird point, but it's too late, so I'm already gonna mention it now. So basically there's a part 60 pages in, or probably further because I was reading on my iPad, so it probably was a lot further than that, where they're like talking and he's like, she'll be the death of me. And it's like, you just met her, you don't know her from a can of paint. Like, I mean, I guess because you're in the trial, so like technically she will actually be, but it was more of like I don't know, like the dynamics in this book were just written like so, the dynamics romance wise were written so weird because the author acted as if these characters like knew each other for a long time, and like I think the author convinced herself that she wrote like a very compelling like enemies to lovers romance, when like it really was shit because they aren't enemies. I mean, they're supposed to be, but he immediately is intrigued by her, and he immediately wants to smash. Like, they immediately want to smash each other. So it's not enemies. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is with this generation of authors thinking that like they want to have that boy falls first and I've been in love with you this whole time and enemies to lovers, and it's like they're not all gonna work. You can get two. You can get boys falls first and enemies to lovers, but the I've been in love with you this whole time shit, it doesn't work in enemies to lovers. Then it's not enemies to enemies. They hate each other. This is flirt to lovers. This is, we can't love each other, but we do lovers. Like, this is not enemies to lovers, and I don't know why authors keep thinking that. Like, same thing with Fourth Wing. Like, they're supposed to be enemies to lovers. He never attempts to kill her, and then he's like, oh, I love how I'm ranting about Powerless, but then I gotta slip a Fourth Wing hate up in there. But yeah, my biggest issue with Fourth Wing is it being marketed as enemies to lovers. And Slow Burn, it's supposed to be 5 books they hook up in the first book. It's enemies to lovers and Slow Burn, but they hook up in the first book. It's not enemies to lovers, it's not Slow Burn. Don't care. This one isn't marketed as Slow Burn, and honestly, if it was, I hope that it wasn't. Sorry. At some point, Kai is sent to kill an ordinary. When he gets to the house, it's a family with an adopted child. The child ends up being the one that's the ordinary. So he takes him to the desert, where if you cross it, all the ordinaries are there. If you can get through the desert into like the other side, that's where all the ordinaries are. So basically in this town, you can either stay in an ordinary and risk being killed, or cross this desert and go to like the place where the ordinaries are. And so he basically like puts them in the desert, and he's like, yeah, y'all are on your own from here. So technically he still like kills them because he doesn't give them any resources or helps them out. He's kind of just like, all right, you're on your own. And also another thing I don't understand is that if there is a place where ordinaries can go to be safe, why don't the ordinaries just travel there? Like, I know there's a risk. Like, I think the author had the desert there so it could be like, oh, but the ordinaries won't leave town because there's a desert where they might die. But like, they're gonna die. They might also die. At least if I die going through this desert, I have a chance of living and going somewhere where I'm accepted and people aren't trying to kill me, versus living somewhere where they're actively trying to kill you. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't think the author fully thought through anything. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think she did. Like, or like she didn't think about like, oh, how could someone who's reading critically think about this? Maybe people don't care about critical readers. Maybe people don't care about being critiqued in their work. And you know what? If that's the case, I respect it, I guess. Peyton ends up getting put, like, she ends up saving the prince. She ends up getting herself into this trial, and they go and they, like, live in this castle. And so before the trial, they do these, like, interviews, like, similar to the Hunger Games, like, basically the Hunger Games, where they do, like, interviews before. And she has convinced everyone that she is a mundane and that she has the power of psychic abilities, because when she was a kid, her dad taught her, like, hey, having psychic abilities is such an easy thing to fake, and, like, here's how, like, basically like a con artist type of thing. But, like, if it's so easy to fake and you were smart enough to think about it, like, I don't know, it just seems like, why was nobody else smart enough to think about that either? Why was, like, no one in the government, or, like, the king or the court or whatever the fuck it's called, why was nobody else smart enough to think, like, hey, somebody could fake this power? Like, why is it that he's such a genius that he figured this simple thing out? That's my issue, is a lot of these things are very, like, simple, and they're treated as if they're genius for, like, simply thinking it up. And it's like, no fucking duh, bitch. Like I said, there's basically these trials like in the Hunger Games, except they don't have sponsors, like, coaching them. And then there's a scene where the lady, I don't know her fucking name, she asks Peyton about running into Kai, and with no filter, Peyton is like, according to the prince, there's nothing to tell, but if you ask me, I think he's embarrassed a girl from the slums saved him. And I think that's, like, a terrible attempt at, like, being Katniss, where it's like, she's so honest and real, and she thinks people are not gonna like her for, like, such a real answer, but then they end up loving her because she's so brutally honest, and they love someone who's, like, so fuck you. So yeah, I just kind of hate it, and I hate it that they don't really have, like, anyone coaching them through the interviews. Like, they just send these teenagers up to do interviews by themselves. Like, I think if you're gonna steal something from the Hunger Games, at least go all the way, bitch. Like, at least get them, like, but I guess she didn't want she was already flat out stealing from both the Hunger Games and Red Queen, so maybe she didn't want to flat out the comparison, but, like, we're already too far, and there's already the comparisons, like, you might as well just go for it. Also, I just want to state that Kai and Peyton don't really have much of a personality. I feel like they're both, like, very basic on their own, like, not even as a couple, but on their own, they're very basic. All Peyton thinks about is being a thief and, like, a liar and, like, getting through these games, which is, like, understandable, but there's nothing more to her. Like, at least in Throne of Glass, Sarah J Maas attempted to make, what is that bitch's name? Selena. At least she, like, made her interested in, like, reading, or, like, with her other book, Akatar, she made Favorite interested in, like, art. So it's like they at least had one thing to attribute. And I wish because people aren't just one dimensional, only, like, have one hobby only. Look at me, I literally crocheting, reading, switch, like, I literally have, like, 18 different hobbies right here. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be multifaceted, but I also don't think that people are so one-dimensional where they only have one thing that they're interested in. And it's even worse in this book because there's nothing that she's interested in. Like, she doesn't really care about much. And, like, I get it, she's an ordinary, but she just doesn't have much of a personality. Like, it's just, like, very, like, boring, very basic, and it's already hard for me in general to care about main characters, so there's nothing here that made me give a fuck if she lived or died. She could have died at the end of this book, and I would have closed it and moved on with my day. And then with Kai, he's also just not very interesting. Like, he's like he's like that typical, like, jokester guy who, like, I don't say jokester, but he's that typical, like, prince who doesn't take anything, like, too seriously, because he doesn't really have to, because his brother, the one who's gonna be the king, and he's just gonna be his enforcer. So it's like his own personal fucking police officer. So it's like he doesn't really have to take the world serious, and I get that, but it's like he also doesn't have much going on for him either. And then together, their banter is very bland. I think that the way they flirt with each other is very corny. He doesn't waste a moment to flirt with her, which is, like, fine, but it's like, can we ever have a serious conversation here? Like, do everything have to be, like, flirting? There's even a point in the book where before the trials even begin, he randomly starts braiding her hair. I really hope that this book was not, like, promoted as enemies to lovers, because if it was, y'all got tricked out your money. Basically, there's this ball that happens the night before, and somebody blows that bitch up. Nobody dies, though, and it's revealed that there's something called the Resistance, because this wouldn't be a Hunger Games ripoff if there was no resistance. Like, come on. Keep up, y'all. Keep up. So the trial starts, and the first one is revealed, and you have to steal someone's band off the others, but it's hard because nobody wants to give up their fucking band, because then I'm out the fucking game, right? Another thing, like what I just touched on, where it's like the author tries to make people seem like they're, like, so much smarter than what they are, because the author tries to make the main character seem like she's so smart. Like, there's a scene where, first of all, the the trial is introduced as a fucking poem, which I think is insane, because if you're gonna kill me off and then you're making this shit a riddle, a poem, trying to make it all aesthetic, and you're trying to kill me, don't piss me off. Like, just kill me, bitch. Like, stop trying to, I'm gonna make this really beautiful poem. No. But anyway, so there's a point where the main character, she's like, basically the poem is revealed, and it's obvious that the poem is like, oh, you have to like steal someone's band. And then she goes, but I read between the lines of the poem, they're forcing us to fight one another. And it's like, no fucking duh, bitch. How the fuck else are you gonna get someone's band? You're gonna walk up to them and ask them nicely? What? Ugh. I just hate how this author tries to make the main character seem like she's so smart and clever, and that's why she's like winning the games. And it's like, no, she won the games because she's your main character. Honestly, my camera overheated, so I forgot where I was. My bad. So in the trial, there's this girl named Sadie, and she is revealed to be able to duplicate herself like the twins from Sky High. I hate how many superhero movies and TV shows I am able to reference in this video. It is really exposing a side of me that wasn't hidden, but I didn't realize how much not a superhero knowledge I had until this video. But anyway, so it's like the twins from Sky High, the black girls who can duplicate themselves. I love that power. I think it's genius, right? But I thought it was really cool, and then I thought it was really funny because Peyton was like following her, and I don't understand how Peyton never felt like inferior to these people with powers, because these are people with such amazing and cool powers, and then here her ass is lying. And then it's the fact that she was able to defeat so many people with like cool power. Like, does this bitch think this is The Boys? Does the author think that this is The Boys? Like, to be honest. Fuck, another superhero reference. Somehow Peyton makes it out the trial alive. And also this book has weird tones of love triangles. Like, it's not actually a love triangle, but it has like that weird tone because of the type of conversations that she has with Kit. Like, they're friendly, but they're not like normally like the vibes. And it's like the book is already feeling so much similar to the Red Queen that like she should have just went there, to be honest. Like, I'm glad. I love triangles. So I personally think if you're going to do the damn thing, then do the damn thing. But I know a lot of people hate them. But a lot of people hate and love a lot of tropes. So it's really just your vibe or whatever. Kit and Peyton form a friendship of their own. And one day they're just like walking and they talk. And they were like having this conversation. I forgot what it was about, I'm not gonna lie. It had to be something about the people, like the ordinary people or something like that. Which I don't know how, with the way that Peyton was fighting for ordinary people, like, I don't know why Kit wouldn't have been able to assume that she wasn't ordinary, pretending to be a mundane, because I don't know. It's just like, why is no one in this book smart? All I have to say. There's another trial where they're supposed to climb a mountain as a team, and somehow again Peyton makes it out alive. She obviously makes it out alive because she's the main character. If this were any other book, that bitch would have been dead by now. Like, she only made it out alive because she's the main character. Like, really. And it's not even like, oh, she's powerless or whatever. She's not that smart. She's not that powerful. She has a dagger and it's mentioned almost every page, yet she never uses it. Oh, also, speaking of daggers, another thing about this book is you don't know if people are dead or not. Like, it's kind of just like, I couldn't figure out the first person like that she killed. You just don't know if people are like dead or not. Like, that's another thing. It's like they're never mentioned again, but they also aren't mentioned to have been dead? Question mark? I don't know. Don't understand why we're supposed to root for Peyton and Kai, because they don't have any real conversations. Like, after a conversation with Kit and Peyton, I was like, okay, like, this is real. Like, this shit is real. Like, they were like talking about ordinary people, and Kit was like talking about him becoming king, and they were even like, then they start joking around afterwards. Kai and Peyton don't have that same thing. Like, they do this thing where they just flirt back and forth. Like, they don't have, like, even if they do have a real conversation, it's just always like, I want to be this person when I grow up, and I want to be this person when I grow up. But it's never like a real conversation. So then the third trial starts. I don't remember what it was, and Peyton's best friend is there for some reason, and I don't remember why. I'm sorry. At this point, I'm mentally checking out. I'm already pissed off. I'm still stuck on the fact that I don't understand. Like, literally throughout this whole book, I'm reading it and I'm thinking, why the fuck are the elites competing in this competition? Like, it's not even a competition. Why the fuck are the elites competing in this trial? Like, I just don't understand. Like, why are you trying to kill off your strongest people and also killing off the ordinaries? Because they clearly hate the ordinaries, because they don't waste time telling you that. Like, the king and the people in the royal court or whatever, they don't waste time letting you know that they hate the ordinaries. So why the fuck are the elites competing? I just don't understand it. And so there are a lot of things that I just kept thinking, like, I don't understand this. So I like mentally just checked out. Peyton's best friend shows up for some reason. The bitch gets killed in the midst of all this by the king. And I also forgot that the best friend existed, because, you know, I didn't mention it in the beginning, but yeah, Peyton has a best friend, because where would a YA fantasy book be if they didn't have a random best friend in the beginning that they cared about? That she was literally just used as a plot device. Like, honestly, there was no other reason for her to be there, because you don't care for her. So obviously she was going to be there to be killed in the end, because you don't give a fuck about her anyways. So the bitch is dead. Peyton confronts the king and they end up having a yap off where they're just talking forever and ever back and forth. And then the king reveals to her that Kai killed her father. Peyton kills the king. So now Kit is the king and Kai is the enforcer. And the book ends with Kit saying to Kai, "Bring me Peyton Gray, enforcer." And it's like supposed to be like this really cunty ending, but it's kind of like, I think, predictions for the second book, I think that the second book will go in the route of Kai probably turning evil or something. I think that the route that this book will go is what people wanted Maven and Mare to go in the second book, because I remember like being on Twitter during the time that Red Queen was coming out, and I had a friend who like really shipped them, and like they really wanted them to be together, and they really loved Maven as a character. I really hope that these are these characters' names and I'm getting it correct, because if not, I don't know what to say. I just hope you know what I'm talking about. But I remember people wanting Mare with Maven, so I feel like the author is probably gonna go in that route of like a Mare and Maven type of like duo thing that people wanted, because I remember it being so popular. Like, people did not give a fuck about Kyle, which is like real. So on to the thing that I want to discuss, which is, when does something being inspired turn into flat out plagiarism? So basically this book is Red Queen and the Hunger Games, and I get that nothing is original. Like, that's a reason why it took me so long to make this video, because I kept like fighting myself, being like, okay, well, nothing's original. Like, I wanted to upload this video. I was supposed to upload this video on a Monday, and like 3 days later, I think Chandler ended up uploading the exact same video, and I ended up watching our videos weren't going to be very similar. We both were just reading the book, but when I saw the video, I was like, damn, I should have uploaded mine sooner, because I felt like, because there's so many reviews of this book that no one's gonna want to watch mine. But I still wanted to upload it anyways. Like, no one has original ideas. Like, that happens to me all the time, where I'll be like, oh, I want to upload this idea, but I don't really know, and then like a month later, 2 weeks later, whatever, somebody uploads the exact same idea that I had. So I get that like nothing that we have is original, and also there's so many stories out there. But I think that this book blatantly, like, it's not like, I don't want to call it, because plagiarism is so hard to prove, but there seems like, I don't know. It just seems like things are completely taken from both. Like, whatever isn't taken from the Hunger Games is taken from Red Queen. Like, there's nothing original in here, except the fact that they have like superpowers, I guess, and it's more so. But I feel like the superpowers isn't like, oh, a superhero thing. Like, it's more of like a fantasy, like magical system type of thing. It's not like a Marvel where they just have superpowers or whatever. It's more of like like, that's at least how I read it. And so I think that's the only original thing that this book has, because everything else quite literally is taken from the Red Queen or the Hunger Games, and it's like whatever isn't stolen from one is stolen from the other. So it's like, oh, well, if I take from two books, it's technically not stealing. It's like, girl, you could at least stole from a little bit more. But also, I read Jennifer Armentrout. She blatantly steals from other authors. Like, there's a book, I read it in one of my vlogs, actually, on my Anna Reads. But there's a book that is quite literally Vampire Academy, but it's just like fucking like demigods or something. There is a book that is literally the Shadowhunter Chronicles. It got turned into like a Passion Flicks like TV series From Blood and Ash itself is a Sarah J Maas wannabe Twilight ripoff. So there are authors out there who blatant, like, and I'm talking about blatant plagiarism. Like, I actually don't know how Jennifer Archer is avoiding being sued. Allegedly. Don't sue me though. Don't sue me. And I understand that the Hunger Games, like the Hunger Games popularized the whole trial aspect, and like, it's like so jarring to like be reading, like, it's just so fascinating reading children competing in like these trials and like killing off each other, and like children having to kill other children. But like in this book, that kind of doesn't work because you don't know if these kids are dead or not. Like, it kind of like isn't, it's kind of like you don't, like, I don't know, like, it's not really touched upon. Also, the Hunger Games, this gives books a lot of plot, because my biggest issue with YA fantasy is that I feel like they don't have plot. I feel like they're just written for the tropes, and because that's what readers want right then, so it's like a easy cash grab. And so at least if you add the trials, it gives it a little bit of plot. Like, I won't say I was never bored reading this book. I read it pretty fast. Actually, my biggest issue was just there were so many things that I was just confused about that I had an issue with. But my biggest issue here is that I feel like when people copy the Hunger Games, they miss the important part, which is the social commentary. If I remember correctly, Suzanne Collins was channel surfing, and on one channel was a competition show, which I like to believe was Big Brother, because it was Big Brother. Because think about it was Big Brother. And then on the other channel, she saw the invasion of Iraq. And I think that's what makes the Hunger Games so good, is because it was a social commentary. It had something to say. And it was like, what if we have these people in this competition and there's this bigger issue going on in the real world, but they're distracted by this competition? And that's what happens in the real world. So much more than just that. Like, it's capitalism. It's so much more. The Hunger Games had something to say, and that's what makes the Hunger Games popular. And I think that's what authors miss when they try to copy it, because they just get the point of like, oh, well, it's these kids fighting against each other, that's so crazy and cruel. But yes, but it's like, what makes the Hunger Games good? And I mean, even with like Suzanne Collins writing other books, she only writes them, or I don't know, because she has something to say. Like, every book has something to say. That's the kind of books that I like to read growing up, like when I was a teen. That's the kind of books that I like to read now. It's also a big reason why I can't pick up YA fantasy now, because I feel like they don't have anything to say. And I don't think that every book has to be out there to have something to say, right? But I just feel like the Hunger Games is going to be around for years and years to come because it has something to say. I think when a lot of authors, if I were to write, which I don't think I ever will, but if I were to write, I would write something that I think would want to be here for years upon years. Whereas I think a lot of authors are just writing something that they just want to be popular now, something that they get money from now, or something that they just want to put out now. I understand that. I completely understand that not everybody wants to have something like long lasting, but I think that's what makes a good book, when you have something to say. So, some of my favorite books that I reread often, books that I always go back to, books that I talk about a lot, are books that have something to say, or have commentary, or something to analyze. When I read If We Were Villains last year, it quickly became one of my favorite books because it was easily to be able to analyze. I could bring out my Shakespeare books, because I am quite a bit of a Shakespeare fan. I could bring out my Shakespeare books and I can analyze the play and what the play meant. And I also felt like even the choices of the play were like a deeper meaning. And I just feel like a lot of these other books don't do the same thing. My battery's dying. I have so much more to say, but my battery's dying and I don't want to be here all day. So basically, I'm saying all this to say is that I think what a lot of people miss when they try to copy the Hunger Games is what this book is about. I think a lot of people miss the fact that it's a social commentary, the fact that it can't be analyzed, the fact that there's so much more going on than just the kids having, like, just these kids being in a trial. Like, yes, it's terrible, but there's so much more here. And also, I know that like publishing, they want you to write like what's popular at the moment. But yeah, so I'm gonna be reading Reckless, so stay tuned for that video. Hopefully it'll be up in August. I'm probably gonna get to reading it like pretty fast. If you like this like sort of like tone in the video, let me know, because y'all don't understand how much I love not having to like get up, do my makeup, actually glue this wig down, and blah 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 blah. Like, it's so comforting. But yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.